Did King Charles make a massive mistake by agreeing to attend a meeting with members of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's communications team? That is a huge question, I think, rolling around, especially when it comes to Prince William, because notably, nobody from Kensington Palace was at this alleged peace summit held in London. Instead, they were left out. And you can't help but wonder, is Charles making a mistake by trying to placate his paranoid, bitter, deluded, angry son, Harry, at the expense of his oldest son, William? William, who will one day be king, is raising the future king and does not need a mess of a spare on his shoulder. So, we are going to get into a little bit of this chaotic mess here today and the fallout of this peace conference. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, hello, my name is Brittany. I do provide compelling royal commentary, so please hit that subscribe button. We would love to have you back. And we like to do a quick section here called the Crown Report. I'll keep it rather brief today, but we do have a big birthday for Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden. She is turning 48, and I was lucky enough to photograph her for her father's Jubilee back in 2023. So you are seeing some pictures from today, but I have to say, this one I took back in 2023 is my absolute favorite with her and her daughter, Princess Estelle. This was at the concert towards the end of the Jubilee celebrations. And just as a personal note, I love photographing Victoria. She is so incredibly expressive and just an absolute joy to photograph. So happy birthday, Your Royal Highness. We do also have news from the Netherlands as Princess Katharina Amalia has received a certificate of participation, but she should get her diploma soon from college. She is continuing with some of her courses in Dutch law, but she had a riding accident, which sort of set her behind finishing her classes. And I completely and utterly understand what she's experiencing because I broke my foot my final week of my undergraduate studies. So I had to delay finishing up as I recovered because I was pretty waylaid and on some pretty good meds there. So I totally understand that bit. And so congratulations though to Amalia. However, the family flying in did get some criticism because apparently they flew in from their holiday home in Greece and then flew back to the tune of maybe 150,000 euros. Quite an expensive little jaunt for just that one little event. So there's been a lot of criticism towards the Dutch, which I think is a video worth exploring here at a later time. And we also have Queen Camilla visiting the Dog Garden, which is part of a new RHS and BBC Radio 2 feature for the Battersea Dogs and Cat Home. So Camilla is the patron of Battersea, and she has adopted her latest dog from the shelters. So I think that is lovely to see from Queen Camilla. And it seems like they had a great day hanging out with all the Papuzos. So there has been a lot of talk and discussion about this whole peace conference situation. And I say peace conference, I don't know what it was. I don't know what they discussed. However, to address a point I saw a lot in the comments, what they did not talk about, guys, was finances. I know a bunch of people have said that they heard that this was about investments that Harry wanted access to. That is completely false. I don't know that for positive because I haven't talked to anybody, but I can almost guarantee you that if you want to talk about finances, you do not call your PR team to do it. So I think that should be removed from consideration. But there's a lot of things they could have discussed here. Invictus Games, reconciling, how bad it is for kind of all sides to not have a, let's say, united somewhat family side of the royal family. And I say family, not the working royal fold, but the family side, because really it doesn't benefit anybody in any way that everything is so divided. And does it deserve to be divided? Yeah, but I understand where Charles is worried, although unnecessarily so, because I don't think anybody in the UK is all that interested in Harry. But Harry is definitely sensitive to the fact that he wants to reconcile. He does look like the bad actor, and he's sort of trying to him-haw his way into, let's say, looking like a good son. But is Charles being a good father in this scenario? I would almost argue no. And I feel like we're seeing something that played out in the Wales' childhood that is extending into here as well. And I say the Wales, I mean Charles, William, and Harry. Because What I see in this scenario, and this such the danger for Charles here, and why he needs to think less like a father and more like a king, is that he's setting William up for failure by potentially, and we don't know for sure all the situations surrounding obviously the meeting between Charles's team and Harry, but allowing maybe for Harry to get his way without Harry admitting mistakes and being conciliatory towards his family. Harry wants to reconcile. I don't know how much my father has, he says, how much time. But Harry is still bitter. He is still angry. He still feels like the royal family owes him something, rather than him realizing that the royal family and the world owes him nothing. It owes him absolutely nothing. And Charles, I think, by, let's say, potentially allowing Harry to skirt by on the horrible decisions he has made, is setting up a brat. It's kind of like as a parent when you let your kid get away with, throwing tantrums at home. Wouldn't you know it? They throw a tantrum in public too, and then you don't know how to handle it, and everything you try is just simply not working. And Charles, in this scenario, I 100% believe, is sort of placating an angry toddler and potentially allowing him to run the royal family in some ways. Because Charles is like, and I understand this from a human perspective. He wants a relationship with Harry. He wants a relationship with his grandchildren. It might be the case that his cancer is quite serious and maybe he doesn't have long left. And so he wants to mend those bonds with the time he has left. And I totally understand that from a human perspective. But Harry is the toddler here. He has thrown the tantrum. And if you placate him and give him what he wants, he's just going to throw a bigger tantrum down the line. And this meeting sets up William for failure, because it was very notable that William didn't have a representative at this meeting. It was just Charles and Harry. And Charles himself, I think, set his own team up for failure by not sending more than one person. Because when it comes to meeting with Harry, we have been told that people basically always wanted to meet him with another person handy in case Harry said something later that was simply not true. They could easily refute it because there was somebody else who was part of that conversation. I'm flummoxed by this idea. That's why it's almost looking very amateurish by the palace not to take Harry and Meghan a bit more seriously. I mean, think of what this couple has done for the last 5+ years. Yes, it started before then, especially since the Oprah interview, Netflix, Spotify, Spare, that you're not, approaching them as if they are an atomic bomb waiting to go off is a little crazy. But Harry, I think, is desperate to make it back in. He wants the prestige. He sort of hates his Hollywood life. I think he hates, in some ways, the life that Meghan wants. And he just is wanting to get back into the life he had. And I said, and I do believe 100% this is true, I'm not against Charles making amends with Harry as a father and a son, but not a king and the Duke of Sussex. That cannot happen, ever. Harry has chosen his life, and he needs to accept that. And I feel what Charles is doing, and I'm sure many of you have stories within your own family of a parent trying so hard to make one child happy, they neglect the other. Because Charles, yes, I understand he wants to reconcile with Harry, but he has another son out there, a son who is doing quite well. And yes, I think in some ways they're close and in some ways they're not. But Charles can't sit there trying so hard to make Harry happy that he leaves a mess for William. Because William is one day going to be king. And Charles, in order for William to stay king, let's be honest, needs to set up the best possible reign for him. Because there will be a lot of questions. I mean, people are always already questioning Catherine and William's, let's say, the money that they have, the spending, whatever. And Charles needs to make sure that William has the best and most stable monarchy possible, because a lot of people are questioning whether or not a monarchy is needed in this modern age. And William, I think, is doing his best to figure out how to make the role work for him in some ways and make it more modern. And we're already heard a lot about how William will probably get away from some of the pomp and ceremony. Say not all, William. Please don't take it all away because we do sort of need it. It's kind of what makes you guys unique. So, getting away with some of the pomp and ceremony, William is definitely moving in that direction. While Charles is still, I think, somewhat clinging to the past and his mother in some ways. I mean, I'm not sure what else he's supposed to do. He's in his late 70s. But Harry is the greatest threat to Charles's reign and William. Because once William becomes king, he can't have, let's say, this brother who doesn't have a relationship with him anymore to be having basically some sort of role within the royal family, which I think is what Harry desperately wants. That can't be a future here. Harry has made his decision. He has done some terrible things he can never take back. And he needs to suffer the consequences of that. And there needs to be consequences to that. But again, Charles, I think, is just so wanting that bond back that he's willing to overlook some of Harry's dastardly deeds in order to make that happen. And so, William, let's say his team, there could be a couple things to read into this whole peace summit. Number one, either they weren't invited or they were invited and said no. But I sort of doubt they were. And the reason is that William really wants nothing to do with Harry anymore. He wants nothing to do with Harry. Charles's vision, I think, of a united royal family front is just a fantasy. It's just a fantasy. The brothers, I don't think, will ever reconcile. If they do, it'll be on their own terms. Charles can't force it. Charles might be trying to force it with something like this, but that's not going to go well. We've heard before that William is very stubborn. I don't think he wants a relationship with his brother anymore. His brother has ruined it. And William's like, I have a wife who battled cancer. I had 3 young children, and I cannot waste my efforts on a brother who has been horrible to me and my family. I need to protect them, and that means cutting Harry out. And Charles needs to, I think, in some ways accept that. Charles needs to accept that is William's decision, and Charles needs to do what is within his power to make sure when he passes that William is set up for the future. And Harry has no role in it. Harry and his family have no role in the future of the monarchy. They just don't. And so for Charles to agree to this meeting, he sets himself up to be walked all over by his son, Harry, in many ways. Charles, if he is coming in on bended knee, if he is the one trying to fix this, if he's the one not making sure that Harry does what he has to do to make this relationship right again, then Charles is setting up a situation where Harry will be the same or worse to his brother in the future. And the monarchy does not need the distraction of Harry and his wife. They don't need it. There is no future for them here. So it's best to move on. And I could almost argue, and this is just mere speculation, but you could almost say that if William's team was aware of this meeting and tried to caution against it, telling Charles and his team, hey, Harry is just going to betray you, you can't trust them. The pictures got out. Not only did they get out, Harry and Meghan still talked to the press afterwards. Because one of the things I find so fascinating is not just that the meeting leaked, because obviously somebody leaked it. They definitely wouldn't know who those people are walking down the street if they were up on a terrace. They'd have no clue who they are. The meeting leaked, but it was Harry and Meghan's response to it. They were not interested in having a private communications channel. They immediately went to the press to complain about it, which is what they've done the entire time. I think William is aware of Harry and Meghan and their spiteful actions and decisions and everything, and he's just done. And there is no place for Harry as a working royal. Even if he has a brief role as a working royal, it'll immediately get dismissed as soon as William becomes king. I don't know what Charles is attempting to achieve, but he has to be immensely careful. I think he is making a huge mistake here if he does not consider what giving into Harry means for William, because you cannot please everyone. And Charles has more than just a family relationship resting on his head. He has a crown. He has a country resting on his shoulders. And he needs to think of William, not just Harry, William. Yes, Harry is the problem child that he wants to sort of try to make happy. But what if Harry is never happy? The thing is, I don't think Harry is ever going to be happy. I think he's just going to live in misery, especially if he remains married to Meghan Markle. I think he will just be miserable. Even if Charles mends a relationship with Harry, as soon as things go wrong, Harry and Meghan are going to do what they've always do and run to the press. They're going to run to the press to whine and complain and all these sorts of things. And William is aware of that. I think most of the royal fold is aware of that, and they're just done with it. They're just done. And Charles has to think of everyone here, not just William, but his other relatives and everything. And so Charles in this situation must think like a king, not a father. You can have that fatherly relationship, but should not come at the expense of the crown. And I feel like that is what Charles is setting up right now. He's setting up a mess for William. Because imagine William having to untangle a working royal of Harry and maybe Meghan and their kids. Like, how is he going to untangle that mess? Because he doesn't want them there. He does not want them in the royal family. He does not want them in the royal fold. I don't think he wants a relationship with his brother again. And so Charles, I think, has to accept that. And maybe he's sort of meddling, and maybe he should just stop. Just let Harry and Meghan stew. Don't make any inroads. Don't do anything until Harry and Meghan come on bended knee. If Charles doesn't, it's a massive mistake, and one that's going to lead to only heartbreak in years to come. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall talk to you again very soon. Bye.